the talk on beer stories. Is it beer stories or beer stories?
He's an Englishman.
Beer stories. And
Well, thanks. I'm not going to bother with the mic on this hill. This is so this is a largely unstructured talk, which is just going to be a wander through some different stories about beer and how it connects us all. We're going to travel in time from 1497 up to the present day. We're going to go through London, Russia, USA, Ireland, South Africa, Netherlands and Portugal in the course of this talk. And we're going to meet some emperors, presidents, artists, writers, rock stars, explorers, brewers, generals, rebels and queens. Let's go.
Guinness.
We are starting off in Horseshoe Lane Brewery in London.
Good.
Sorry? No, not Burton. This is on Tottenham Court Road in London, which is now the west end of London. And owned by Muir & Co. on the 17th of October 1814, a 7-metre tall wooden vat holding 56,000 hectolitres of beer. It was a big vat. It had a series of iron hoops that surrounded the vat, and one of them let go. It wasn't the first time this iron hoop had let go, and about 4:30 in the afternoon the foreman was busy signing off the requisition to buy another one, and a second one went, and then a third one went, and this vat went and took out the vat next door as well. It had been maturing for 10 months in this vat. First of all, I did mention there's some prizes for correct answers to questions. First question is, what were they brewing? What style of beer?
yeah.
Water.
This is how this thing works.
Primary corruption.
We had a 5-metre wave of porter.
Good lord.
There were 7 deaths. People sadly attending a wake in one of those basement flats in London. I mean, they were attending the wake and basically they drowned in porter. So, I mean, I suppose there were also reports of a couple of people dying afterwards from overconsumption.
Jesus.
That's the class 2. So 7 were killed instantly and a couple of others. The brewery managed to persuade the government it was an act of God and recovered all the duty. So I mean, as brewers, that's something that will bring us far. So behind this brewery was the inspiration for William Hogarth's Gin Lane. So I don't know whether you know, William Hogarth is a famous illustrator. I don't know whether you've seen any of these pictures here. That was the area behind was Gin Lane. So gin in the late 19th century from Holland was absolutely wreaking havoc in London and the UK. Yeah, people were making it in the bathtub and getting frost. So if you look at Beer Street here, so Beer Street, you can see that all the merchants are happy and content, everyone's smiling, painting new signage and things. It's St George's Day, the flag is flying up there. Land of Plenty, and I'll just read you the inscription underneath. Beer, happy produce of our isle, can sinewy strength impart, and wearied with fatigue and toil, can bear each manly heart. Labour and art upheld by thee successfully advance. We quaff thy balmy juice with glee, and water leave to France. If you contrast this now with Gin Lane, you can see this lady in ill repute here, covered in sores, dropping her child. There's
There's a lot of women in that picture.
tradesmen taking their stuff to hawking at pawnbrokers in the streets. I think maybe we recognise one or two of those poses from So that was the contrast then between Beer Street and Gin Lane. So Gin Lane was behind. So that's the end, almost. But Horseshoe Lane Brewery, they rebuilt the vats and things, but they actually closed it in 1921. And it became the Dominion Theatre in the West End of London. So it hosted lots of plays, theatrical productions. It hosted quite a few concerts in the 1980s. And including it hosted Queen's We Will Rock You musical from 2002 to 2014. On the 21st of July 1982, the Prince's Trust concert was held as the Prince Charles's charity, and it featured someone singing there who was described by Rolling Stone magazine in 2011 as the best lead singer of all time.
Who is it?
Anyone have any guesses?
Freddie Mercury.
Well, no, yes.
Elton John.
Not Freddie Mercury. No, back earlier.
Rod Stewart.
Earlier.
Mick Jagger.
Right sort of vintage.
The darkness guy.
Gary Glitter. Gary Glitter.
Oh, Robert Plant.
Robert Plant. I tried to think of the beer that would best represent Robert Plant. A warrior, I thought was pretty good. So, now the reason that I'm mentioning Robert Plant is his son, Logan Romero Plant, is the co-owner of Beavertown Brewery with his wife. It's a really successful brewery in the UK.
They make very nice beer.
Heineken bought 49% of them in 2018. They've now opened a 500,000 hectolitre brewery in North London. And so they produce beers.
They're at a footy
Cameray-
stadium, if I'm not. They're at one of the football stadiums, aren't they? They're at like Tottenham or something. Yeah.
The old
that's not Beavertown.
The old Tottenham
Not
ground,
Beavertown.
yeah.
No, it's really.
The old Tottenham ground.
No, they are at one of the. I can't remember which club.
Yeah.
But they're at a club as well.
Is Beaver Club at
Yeah, because they were based in Tottenham in North London.
Yes. So now Tottenham built their new stadium
Right.
around the
It's a brewery.
section that's left over, and they've taken over that old.
Okay.
that old-
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they supply the beer into the
Yeah,
Tottenham
into the
stadium,
stadium, yeah,
as it is.
yeah.
Yes. That's the
Cool.
Yeah.
Their beers are great. They include gamma ray, neck oil, and lupuloid. Lupuloid is
Neck oil.
my favourite.
You.
Lupuloid, you can feel the enamel coming on the teeth. Strongly recommend. If you ever get the chance to have something like this, then buy everything, especially lupuloid.
There you go. It is in the new Tottenham Stadium.
Yeah.
They're very good.
Confirmed.
So Heineken bought 49% of them, I think, for about $20 million.
Is that how you got the Robert Plant answer as well?
No.
Put his phone away, he's fact checking.
I just love 70s rock.
No, I checked, he didn't Google that.
Right, let's go back to London Porter and let's go south of the Thames. And we'll see this, rivers are important, so we're always going to come back to rivers. Anyway, so we go south of the Thames. In 1698, Peter Alexievich Romanov visited London.
Oh,
Who is Peter Alexievich Romanov?
Sorry.
Any clues? Yes.
Peter the Great.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Peter the Great.
Already, yeah?
Fastest on the road. Right. So that was Peter the Great. He came over and visited London. He actually visited London a couple of times.
But he inspired the Imperial Stout.
Hold on, James. Hold on.
It's on the next slide.
Nick, Bruce and I, we feel your pain.
It wasn't even called Stout So he came over and he got the taste for dark beers and started importing dark beers
Back to Russia.
Over to Russia. We also come across here a guy called Ralph Thrale in Anchor Brewery, which is based south of the Thames there. Ralph Thrale actually used to be the brewery manager who came good. He bought the brewery for £11,000, I think. In 1727. He had paid that off in 11 years.
What?
Yeah. That was a brewery making money, it's cool. Around that time, people were looking at increasing the alcohol content. The first reference we have to a London porter was actually, they were named after the London porters who used to wheel these barrels around London. The first mention of that style is 1721. And then the stronger versions became known as stout porters, and eventually they ended up just dropping the water for the higher alcohol versions, and they became known as a stout. In 1762, we have a sickly 16-year-old German girl, Sophie Friederike August von Anhalt-Dornberg, with a very ambitious mother. Does anyone know?
Can you just sign that video?
No.
So Paul's got some competition. No, he's outside.
Who is this girl?
Princess Bismarck, I think.
No, she was a cousin of the Swedish royal family, but a fairly minor.
She not Catherine who invaded Russia?
Definitely great.
Great.
Oh, we already started
That's what Catherine did.
So we went from Peter the Great to Catherine the Great.
That was quite a simple deduction.
I think John needs one.
And this is Imperial Stout. So she was Catherine the Great. One of the things she did was to undo one of the laws that Peter the Great had introduced. Peter the Great introduced, he was a great reformer. He wanted Russia to become modelled much more closely on sort of Western Europe and those kind of traditions and things.
St. Petersburg.
And one of the things he did was to introduce a tax
That's what they do, the
on long robes. So anyone wearing long traditional Russian robes was taxed. And there was one other thing that he taxed, and was only actually revealed by Sophie in 1768. So what else would he tax?
Beer. Potatoes.
No, something to do with your person.
Tats.
Beards.
Beards.
Yes.
Beard.
Anyone who had a long beard.
Sex man was like,
Oh, and we love that.
From the Yeti stable, we have the it couldn't have gone to a more appropriate place. I don't know whether any of you know anything about Catherine the Great, but my goodness me, she was a woman who knew how to live.
yep.
So she developed her taste for what became the Russian Imperial Stout. She used to import them from Anchor Brewery. And they were imported to the royal court and the military as well, in large quantities of it. She was very interesting. She got rid of her first husband, who was a slightly pathetic character, within about 6 months. Who was actually the one who had the fame.
He was beheaded, I think. Beheaded.
Yeah, ultimately, he was killed in jail.
St. Petersburg.
What?
And so she took over and it was again, she was carrying on this whole thing of kind of westernizing Russia and trying to make them more culturally aware of things. She had lots of interesting lovers in Italy, and she was a great character. Quite a small woman, and quite rotund by the time she finished with
Imperial style,
But she used to pride herself on the fact that she could drink as much as any man and still remain standing.
If she's drinking only Russian Imperials, then I can believe it. Bloody hell.
So we then get to Ralph Thrale passed on the brewery to his son Henry, who was actually MP for Southwark in South London. When he died. When Henry died, it came up for sale. One of the executors of Henry's will was a guy called Samuel Johnson.
What a small world.
So Samuel Johnson came up with the most fantastic description for selling this brewery, Anchor Brewery. I was just trying to picture this on Gumtree, and I couldn't really. We are not here to sell a parcel of boilers and vats, but the potentiality of growing rich beyond the dreams of avarice.
In other words, you're going to get shit rich.
He was the executor.
You're going to be knowing that Nigerian.
He was the executor of the will.
It's just
Now,
boiling hops and water.
Samuel Johnson had earlier been commissioned to develop a great reference work in the UK, which took him 9 years, and remained the standard reference book until it was replaced in 1928 by the Oxford Press's edition of it. So anyone know what reference?
Oxford Dictionary.
Yes.
Dirty glass man. God, you didn't get the previous one.
Sometimes you win beer and sometimes you win dictionary.
Please read it and summarize it.
Next year.
Catherine the Great died. There was a nasty rumour that was something intimate involving a horse and we'll leave that. That was German propaganda. Her son in 1796 took over from her son Paul, and that is going to take us to America. Now, we don't often think about the world this way around. We normally think of looking at America over here and Russia on the other side. But actually, Russia is right next door to America.
Winter you can have it.
And Paul formed a company in 1799 called the Russian-American Company. And the Russian-American Company was really to explore commercial opportunities and to claim territory and to set up ports down the west coast of America. That's what they was to do. They had a port in one place, the Swaginga River. Swaginga means it's a sort of Slavic girl, Slavic woman. They named that river. There was a guy, a Russian, the American ambassador, who was asked to negotiate with the Russians as to exactly, kind of limit their encroachment into America in terms of territorial claims and what their trade was going to consist of. That guy was John Quigley Adams.
Okay.
John Quigley Adams was the 6th President of the United States. He became so after that. His father, John Adams, was the 2nd President of the United States. John Adams, exactly out Bush's. John Adams' second cousin he came from quite a wealthy family. He graduated Harvard in 1843. He tried a number of business ideas, all of which failed. His father gave him £1,000 to set him up in business. He gave 500 to a friend who promptly disappeared, and the other 500 he managed to lose himself. These are substantial amounts of money. So eventually he was taken into the family's malting business and was made a partner there. But he had little interest in that, really. His real interest was politics. And he became instrumental in the American Revolution, in the Boston Tea Party, and a legislator in Massachusetts. So, who am I talking about?
Samuel
Lincoln.
He's going to say that over an hour ago.
Sam Adams.
Samuel Adams. So he was the second cousin of John Adams, who was the father of John Quigley Adams, who was negotiating with the Russians. And so the next question is, what was the Swaginga River renamed? Russian River. Russian River.
Chrissy! Come on, Mary. Yes, well, we'll have it. Yes, you'll drink it
Can
tonight.
someone else say Russian River? So,
Russian River.
I'll find another question
We can
later.
go side by side.
So you've got Simon Adams, you've got the Russian River Brewing Company, and just down the road on Russian River is Lagunitas. As well. So I mean, you've got three of the great brands of American brew. Yes.
I thought they were in California.
I don't.
Yeah,
Everyone
no, West
probably knows
Coast.
this, but didn't Samuel Adams just bring out a beer with the highest alcohol content, and it cost, I think it's $250 for a 250 ml beer that they brought out now in the last month or two.
Oh, okay, I haven't come across that.
I saw something, I don't think it was the highest alcohol.
Okay, Bruce is going to fact check. It's just fun.
Yeah, but they've been. But I did see something recently.
Russian River is in California. Am I right?
Not Sam,
What's that? Russian River is in California. Lagunitas is also in California.
Just down the road.
No longer use
Sam Adams is.
So these are three of the great brands of American craft beer industry. So one of the things I liked that I thought I would share with you is the Lagunitas. When they were founded in 1993, the Lagunitas Three Truths. The three truths are: beer speaks for itself, life is uncertain, don't sip, and it's good to have friends.
And it's good to have a family.
Okay. So now we're going to go, because rivers are important, we know rivers are important. So we're going to go over to the River Liffey. Anyone know anything about the River Liffey?
Yes, the halfpenny bridge goes over it.
The which bridge?
The halfpenny.
Halfpenny Bridge. Okay. Anything else? Anything beer related?
Yes, that's where they get Guinness. Originally started taking
Yes.
water from there for Guinness.
The new Sam Adams beer isn't the strongest. It was actually brewed
Well,
in
thank you.
space, or partially brewed on the space flight a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, on SpaceX.
Is that why it's so expensive?
Yeah,
That's what it's expensive.
Yeah, the beer is called Spacecraft.
There's no hops in it.
It was all sold out before the
Golden
beer produced.
That's so big with it.
Yeah.
And how does that
So, the River Liffey runs through Dublin. Guinness actually gets their water, or they claim to get all of their water from the Wicklow Mountains.
Yes.
Which,
They don't come from
Arthur Guinness started in 1843, the brewery, and he signed a lease on St James's Gate Brewery for £45 a year for 9,000 years with no escalation.
Well done, but
It was subsequently renegotiated a few years later as part of a deal to give him access to all the water from the Wicklow Mountains that he wanted as well. But so it has increased a bit, but it was a stunning deal.
Yes.
You can only do that.
Someone who didn't understand the fashion.
wow.
So now we're going over to Ireland, and we're going to look at. We're going over there from America. So we're going to look at 7 presidents who've drunk in Irish pubs. So the first one is JFK, who went there when he was a youngster. The second one,
Clinton.
this boy, Jimmy Carter. Does anyone know the significance of Jimmy Carter to us all?
you put
In Prohibition ended in 1933, but home brewing was never made legal.
21st Amendment.
So in 1978, there was a California senator who was lobbied quite hard by the guys who wanted to do a bit of home brewing. And he eventually managed to find a way of sneaking it into the legislation. There's four clauses in this legislation. It was like a little amendment. And there was something about the valuation of chassis on trucks for tax purposes, and there was something about tax rebates on fuel used in planes that were doing crop dusting. And, oh, by the way, you're allowed to homebrew beer. If you're in a household of 2 or more, you can brew 200 gallons a year. If there's one person, that's
200 gallons?
100 gallons a year. Yeah.
Times 4.
Times 4.
Yeah.
It's not much.
We all owe Jimmy Carter in 1978 a debt of gratitude.
I think I'm okay.
Well
Well done,
the next guy is Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, his ancestors originally came from Ballipina in Ireland, in County Antrim. When he went over there, he went over to a pub which was owned by the O'Farrell family, and they renamed the bar the Ronald Reagan Bar, or the Ronald Reagan Saloon, in his honour. There was a member of the Board of Trustees of the Ronald Reagan Foundation was back over in Ireland in 2004, and he thought he'd nip into the pub and have a drink there. He was drinking Smithwick's, by the way. And he went in there and found that the place was closed. They were selling out. So he got together $100,000 and bought the place, packed up all of the bar stools, all the furniture, everything else, shipped it over to California to the Ronald Reagan Foundation there, reassembled it in the Ronald Reagan Saloon in California, and they got the O'Farrell's family over to come and pour the first pint of Smithwick's.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's a story.
Only the Americans.
Only the Americans.
So,
Don't tell me you packed up a bar and
Bold.
County Casino.
Go ahead,
That's when you-
Oh, that comes trouble.
Cigars. Cigars.
Bill Clinton, we're not going to dwell on too long. Because,
Let's guess, what about Charlie? George.
so, next one, both the Bushes. George Senior and George W. Are both and they repeated the feat of the John Adams and John Quigley Adams 176 years later as being the only other father and son team to be president. Yes.
Are we not supposed to not mix alcohol with politics?
Or religion.
You know what? I think finally, our Senate president is President Obama.
Let's get a
Yes. So President Obama was the first American president to brew beer in the White House. He brewed a honey brown ale using honey from the White House garden. And then in one,
None of your opinions.
it was 94. One Russian president didn't have a drink in Ireland. So picture the scene. This is Shannon Airport. He arrives on the presidential plane. They wheel the stairs up to it. They put the red carpet out. Albert Reynolds, then the Taoiseach, effectively the president of Ireland, is waiting on the red carpet to greet his counterpart. And he was a no-show. After 45 minutes, they wheeled the steps away, closed the door, and the plane took off again.
19?
Gorbachev.
Gorbachev.
No, it wasn't Gorbachev.
Yeltsin.
Yeltsin!
It was
Boris
So even to this day, there's a euphemism in Ireland where you talk about circling over Shannon, which means that you're just not fit to climb down the stairs. Back to America. Does anyone know who this woman is? Okay, she's the daughter of Irish immigrants. Born in Kansas in 1842. She started a local branch of the Women Christians Temperance Union.
So she was the head of
You can tell by the disapproving look on her face.
She needs a beer.
Prohibition.
It's better. So she was part of the intolerance folks who were trying to shut down alcohol. She had a vision. Her name I know what's going to go is Carrie Nation. She was married for a year to an alcoholic doctor who then died, and she subsequently married a clergyman. In 1900, she had a vision. And the vision was God telling her to go and smash up bars. And that's what she did, with a hatchet, yes. So she called them her hatchetations. She smashed up 33 bars altogether. She was constantly appearing in court. She used to... So the sign underneath was actually hung around over a lot of bars then, particularly in Kansas, which is all nations are welcome except Carrie. And yeah, so this was Carrie Nation. But eventually, the funny thing, some people claim this isn't true, I don't know, but it's a fantastic story if it is true, so I'm going to tell it. They erected a fountain in Wichita in Kansas, in some kind of park to their memory. And about a decade after it was put up, a brewery truck was reversing. Took out the fountain. It's not true. It's great.
Was that an accident? Maybe?
So, no, so 1920 we got the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and that was the beginning of Prohibition, which then ended in 1933.
Because we know they didn't work well.
Amendment. Yeah,
Well, 13 years is a long time.
worked spectacularly well. So,
Worked really well for the mob.
yes.
Yes.
Alcohol is banned in lots of places. Travel to the Middle East, I know for religious reasons, it's banned or restricted in lots of places there. And in Asia and the Far East. Thailand, I found out, alcohol is banned on election day.
Fair enough.
I'm thinking in South Africa, if there's ever a day that...
Alcohol, you need
It would be an amazing day, yeah.
So alcohol ban brings us to South Africa, and specifically to KZN. First of all, we're just going to talk about immigration. There was a guy who arrived on a boat called British Tar in 1850. The British Tar, the ship actually sank the following year off Hobie Beach, but he was all right, and he was brewing pineapple beer in Durban by 1852. And he actually got married at Peter Maritzburg Church down the road. Does anybody know what connection he might have with beer?
Birkin.
No.
Charles Glass.
No.
Nearly, but not quite.
What is it?
Late
Agars.
Charles
Something.
Artemis Agar.
What?
Thanks for spending
The
enough time.
Agar Booties. Fucking hell.
Really?
Even looks like it.
Mike Agar's grandfather
It's
from
just like
Grenfell.
Yeah. So that's immigration. We're actually tracing. We're not going to talk about the
Politics.
the current lot. We're going to talk about the problems starting where all problems start with the British, really.
As it does.
From 1880 onwards, they started restricting, Africans brewing beer and restricting Chwara or Umqombothi to only 2%, which is kind of what they were sort of doing anyway. But they introduced the Native Beer Act in 1908, which meant that you were no longer allowed to produce it yourself. It had to be produced in Durban Corporation breweries and consumed in the municipal beer halls. So this was further strengthened by in 1928. And one of the things this really did, actually, the social impact was to disempower women, because women were the ones who were responsible for beer production. And so, they could no longer be of sort of independent means or make money for themselves and kind of be independent. So they lost that. So it actually had a much greater social impact than necessarily. There's a Victoria Street beer hall in Durban. It's a popular place. They used to serve food as well as beer. They had 3 Durban Corporation breweries, on Ordnance Road, Rossborough and Sydenham. And this was the era of the Shebeen Queens. So people naturally started brewing again. There was Durban as a port was growing, so there were lots of people, new arrivals in Durban, if you like, and so women would be brewing beer for the local market. The police used to raid quite often in the townships. They used to come and turn over all the fermenters and things, which is similar to what we've seen in the last couple of years.
Yep.
So they used to bury the fermenters. And so the police obviously got the hang of this and started digging. But they were clever. So what you would have is you'd have a small fermenter on top and a bigger fermenter underneath. And if anybody went digging and found a small fermenter, they thought, okay, they've got it. The good stuff was down there. The other thing they did though was put pressure on people to produce beer quickly. And to consume it quickly, and there was a demand for higher strength beer, and that led to the sort of unfortunate things of whacking in a bit of meth or battery acid. Yeah, exactly that. And isi shmiani, the molasses-based spirit that they used to ferment as well. So they would blend up the beer, so you got sort of a bit more bang for your buck. Very quickly, as Durban Corporation are makes available. This is basically their process for producing quality. It's quite interesting. Wood flour is called here. So you've got a recipe if you want to look at it for 100. I feel like producing 100 gallons of stuff.
What we will do is add links to all the talks.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do one of those. Looks interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of soft.
I want to talk very briefly about Dorothy Nzanti Nyembe. Born in 1931, she was born just outside Dundee.
Winnie.
No. It does look like her. She was. She joined the ANC Women's League. Later joined MK. She led the riots in 1959 in Durban. There was quite a lot of unrest and unhappiness about the beer halls and the municipality's monopoly on the production of beer. She led the riots and started off in Cato Manor in 1959. She was also on the 20,000 Women March to Pretoria in 1956, I think.
Yep.
From 1963 onwards, she was spent large amounts of her time in jail. She actually spent more time in jail than any other woman, as part of this liberation movement. So there's a statue to her found in Durban, somewhere, I'm sure we'll learn that. And they've renamed, I think Gardner Street was renamed after her. But she's an unsung hero, really, of the brewing movement as well, because she kick-started that riot in 1959. Which culminated in legislation change. There was this dichotomy because women were slightly upset that they were spending all the money in all the household budget in municipal beer halls. So that was part of it was kind of trying to control household budgets a bit, but also to take back control of the ability to produce, which was a right that was taken away from them. Okay. And here we go, this last slide. An English
Oh, God.
Oh, here we go.
So this guy, I don't think you're going to get this guy. This guy was called Sir Colin Harkett. He was in charge of the 45th Foot Regiment of Sherwood. Which was based in South Africa for about 20 years from 1860 onwards. They were based there because as the settlers had pushed up into Natal, they were being relieved of a lot of their livestock by the natives. And so they were trying to calm down there. So they built a garrison here, whilst they were here. Sherwood, what does people think of with the name Sherwood? Forest. Okay. And who was the sheriff?
Lord of Nottingham.
Nottingham.
No, no more beer.
I'm gonna have these all the way home.
Just give it to Bruce.
So it's Nottingham. So they set up the fort. The fort was Nottingham Fort. And so what's the connection with beer here?
Nottingham
On
Road.
Ford Road?
Nottingham Road. So that's where Nottingham Road came from. Was the link of the road to the fort. There's a little tributary which flows into the Lions River, which obviously connects Umgeni and Moy River, and of course that gives Lions River Brewery. There's another troublemaker here. He pitched up in 1652. He named the Liesbeck River in Cape Town, which of course is where Newlands Brewery sits, on the spring that feeds into it. The first brewing license there was issued in 1657. As I said, it was the first brewery he named. Oh, sorry, the first river that he named. It had two other names before he gave it Liesbeck name. One was the Verse. Does anyone know what the other name was? And it was coincidentally the name of a brewery which was subsequently founded in Holland in 1870.
Amstel.
There you go. Right.
So that's after Amstel River in Amsterdam.
Yes, so all that time, SAD were brewing Amstel under license, so they could have actually started off years earlier. Anyway, so that's the other.
And the Portuguese?
Final, the Porra.
Florentina. Yeah.
Who is this?
Yes.
Yes, go
Yes!
Yes!
No, not a prize for that. Okay, so that's where the governor stopped at the river to take on fresh water in 1492, I think it was. And he stopped there on Christmas Day. And so he named Natal, which is Portuguese for birth, because it was Christmas time. We fast forward to a Dutchman.
Navidad, actually. It should be called Navidad.
Sorry?
If it's Portuguese, it should be Navidad.
Well, no, Natal means birth. Yeah, so it's not naming Christmas. So, fast forward to the 1840s, 1850s, and there is a gentleman called, I'll think of his name in a minute. He was in the British Merchant Navy, but he was a Dutchman. He eventually got a boat of his own called the Eleanor. This is like 1 minute ago. He got a boat called the Eleanor, and he used to trade up and down the east coast. He sank the boat in the mouth of Durban Harbour. Wow. He then became harbour master.
Because he knew where the boat was.
He knew where the rocks were.
He knew where not to go.
So he then, that job only lasted 9 months. He left under a bit of a cloud and resigned. He tried running a bar in Durban, and that was unsuccessful, he went bust. And so he bought a farm northwest of Durban with a coaching inn on it. And the guy's name was Cornelius Porter. And here we are, Porter's Hill.
One of the best history lessons I've ever had.
One song.
It's always one song.
The the last talk was
Adesso